Good day, emerging mothers. Good day, good day, good day. Listen, I have been waiting all day to connect and chat with you all. So I am so glad you're here. So thank you so much for joining for your weekly live. So listen, this is our first time at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Now we've been on Thursdays, yet it's been at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please let me know down in the chat how this 7 p.m. is going to work for you. I need to know. I just want to make sure that it's accommodating for you and that you're able to join. Hopefully this is after dinner. If not, maybe just a little bit before. But nonetheless, as opposed to it being in the middle of the day at 2 p.m., I said, let me just try out a little bit of 7 p.m. So yes, drop down in the chat if this 7 p.m. time works for you, because if it works for you, then by golly, it's going to work for me, and then we'll continue to, of course, do it at 7 p.m. this weekly live. So listen, I also want to remind you before we jump in regarding our topic on today that the masterclass is quickly approaching on November the 8th. And so you will want to, inside of our Emerging Mothers Facebook group, you'll want to click that link and then just go ahead and sign up. And then even if a friend wants to come and they have a high school junior or senior, then they're more than welcome to come as well. So I just wanted to remind you of that. What we're going to talk about today is just critically important. It's communication. Communication. I'm telling you, when those teens mature more and more, it almost seems as though that communication becomes even less. It becomes even less. And let's think about it. And I'm thinking about my 3 daughters. You know, I think about when they were the terrific twos, and I think about when they have now approached their teen years. Of course, many of you know I have this 21-year-old, a 23-year-old, and then of course I have a 14-year-old as well. So all of them are teens / young adults for, of course, my older ones. But if we think about when they, and a lot of people called it the terrible twos, but guess what? I brainwashed myself, and all throughout that phase I called it the terrific twos. But you know what? Let's think about it. There's a comparison between that. Between when they were 2 and now that they're teens. And it's so interesting because at both of those phases, within both of those phases, then of course they were trying something new. They were trying to be independent. You know, when my daughters were 2 years old, I mean, they were already walking. So of course, but they were moving closer to maybe solid foods, or they were trying to, you know, understand, you know, the family members and who was who at the age of 2. So they were thinking, you know, new. They were trying new things. They were, you know, eating, you know, again, more solid foods. They were, you know, not walking then, they were like running and wanting to release themselves from our hands and wanting to do things on their own. Guess what? The same thing when they become teens. They're trying to gravitate towards, you know, being more independent, doing more things on their own. The only thing, you know, there's, you know, the choices as it pertains to friends. There's the choices as it pertains to schools. The only thing about their teen years is that more developed emotions are involved, number one. And then secondly, there's a consequence to their decisions now that they're teens. And so whether it's driving a car, or as I mentioned, whether it's them choosing the right friends, or that peer pressure then is involved. Also sex, what foods to eat that are healthy for their bodies, or if they're even eating any healthy foods at all. Substances are out there right now when they're teens. So, okay, so when they were 2, that, you know, the decisions didn't have really many consequences because we were overseeing their actions. But now that they're teens, more emotions are involved. And then there are these consequential decisions at this phase. So, but in both situations, we can compare them because, of course, they were trying something new. They were wanting to be more independent in both of those situations. So that's why I want to talk to you about, and that's why it's even more important than ever that communication is ignited, it's increased, or if it's been dormant over these months or years, then we really want to reignite it, because prior to them launching out of our homes and going onto the college campus or the military base or residential independence, we just want to make sure that that communication is intact and that bond, that close bond is formed. So drop for me down in the chat, what decisions your teens may be facing, whereas they would prefer to overlook your input. Drop that down in the chat, because it's interesting. There are lots of decisions, there are lots of questions that come your teens way that, of course, it's interesting because that whereas they may need our opinion, they may need our thoughts, but I'm unable to say that they necessarily come to us for it. So and let's just be totally honest about it. When it comes to us and our teens, that wall can sit high. But when it comes to their friends, and when it comes to them revealing their thoughts and their dreams or their ideas on social media, that wall sits really, really low, and they're able to, it seems like almost sometimes more comfortably reveal in situations such as that, as opposed to chatting with us. So let's talk about that, and let's talk a little bit about how we can ignite that communication. So first and foremost, listen, let's meet for a meal. I mean, at all costs, I try to sit down with my teens. Now, my middle teen, of course, she's still in college. My oldest teen, she works and then she travels quite a bit. And so, but for my younger teen, Ivana, we try to do dinner like often. Or, if she has basketball practice or anything along those lines, and we have to grab a bite out, then, of course, if we're unable to meet for a meal, or if we're driving and she's eating, then, of course, I try to allow for there to be a mentoring moment. And I try to do that daily, because it's important that I know, what's going on in her day. How are her interactions with her teachers at school? Is there anything that I can help with in reference to, does she need something printed? Does she need something, because I want to make sure that she's able to concentrate, remain focused, make the grades that need to be made. And even with my older teens, the focus is to still check in from time to time, see what's going on. Is there something that, of course, maybe they need some additional options on, so they can make a final decision, a final and informed decision, what needs to take place in reference to those communications. And so, because I know also that friends can have an impact, of course, on our teens, and they have a way of possibly undoing something in 14 minutes that we have taught our teen in 14 years. So remaining in contact is key, and meeting for meals, or even meeting for a mentoring moment. One of those two, if not both, are critical. And even as I'm driving my daughter to school, she'll be reading the devotional. We're discussing that devotional. So that can be a mentoring moment then. But I would totally capture those moments to make sure that you and your team, of course, remain connected, increasing those communications so that they're knowing that you're there. Of course, so even when they transition out of the home, of course, they know where you are. Also, so number 2, listening versus lecturing. We are so quick to jump in and correct, and sometimes, there's that critical part of us, and it can be constructive criticism, of course, but by the same token, if we really listen in, as opposed to solving the problem, which as mothers, we have a habit of doing that. Let's just do this or do that, as opposed to giving those options so that they can choose and make an informed decision. Or when I say listening as opposed to lecturing, that was a little different than how I was raised. Of course, although I did not receive it from my mother, I heard it, in the family quite a bit. That, when a decision needs to be made, or when an issue surfaces and then we want our teens to do something, and then they're curious, from time to time, they're wondering, why to do it a certain way. Then of course, as adults, we're quick to say, because I told you so. That's what I heard a lot in my upbringing. Because I told you so, do it. But by the same token, if we're listening, as opposed to lecturing all the time, and then, it's even okay, to mention, why a certain decision has been made. It's okay. Because guess what? Let's be honest. Really, right now, we're raising our grandchildren. Because our sons and our daughters will reenact what's being done right now. So it's okay. I want to make sure that that phone goes in the basket the minute you come into the home. They're asking why? Because you know what? I see some grades that could be higher, and I see that you're spending more time on that phone, and that phone is a distraction. And so we want to make sure that that phone is over here. Let's do the homework, and then let's just go ahead and then proceed for the remainder of our day. It's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. So that, guess what? In essence, that could be a principle, or that could be a tool, or that can be awesome advice, of course, that they will then share with their sons or their daughters. And that's what I mean by right now, we're raising our grandchildren. And guess what? If things have been done properly earlier on in life, guess what? They know who sets the rules. And they know where the respect ought to be. And they know who they ought to listen to in reference to making sure that the respect is there. Of course, and they know that there are boundaries that surround that playfulness or that comforting relationship. They already know that. So I just think it's okay. All right. So also, thirdly, there ought to be, as we're helping to ignite this communication, let's remain intact with where we are. So let's focus on our feelings, because there are times, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, emerging mothers, that the disagreement takes place. And then there may be, some attitude, or there may be from our teens, maybe some slight, something that seems or appears or we discern as maybe being disrespectful. We can, of course, make sure that our emotions remain intact. We can make sure that we're able to identify where we are emotionally, so that self-awareness kicks in, so that we're able to, of course, know when those emotions surface. We're able to identify exactly where we are, and we're able to manage that. So that self-awareness will be key if we want, of course, that communication to increase. So self-awareness. And then guess what? When we're self-aware and aware of what's going on within us, then guess what? We can be socially aware, because we know how we're interacting with our teen, and our teen is aware of our stance and how they ought to interact with us, and we're able to receive that respect. And the communication can continue to remain ignited because both of you all are on the same page. So everything is intact in reference to that self-awareness, and then that social awareness, and then of course, and some of you may have heard me mention those 4 constructs before, and then also there's that relationship management. That relationship can be managed, whereas, no need for there to be any silent treatment thereafter, no need for there to be any grudges being held, because the relationship is managed properly, even after there being a disagreement, or even after maybe feelings of annoyance or frustration or disappointment have surfaced. That communication is still intact, because both the teen and the parent, of course, know where they stand. And then also there's that 4th one of self-management. So of course there's that self-awareness, there's social awareness, there's relationship management, and then also there's that self-management. Of course, okay, so let's go back over those. So there's that self-awareness, there's that social awareness, there's that relationship management, and then the fourth is that self-management. You know, even if mothers, you feel or sense or discern that your emotions are unraveling, of course, there are strategies that can be utilized in reference to your breathing deeply. There are strategies in reference to, you know, reflecting on previous situations and circumstances regarding what may have worked best in reference to your communication with your teens. There are a number of strategies to make sure that your emotions remain intact, so that you can continue to make sure that the teen, of course, knows exactly what needs to happen and what needs to take place. So those four constructs, we want to make sure that we've embraced them. We're aware of what needs to happen and when. Because guess what? When they transition out, we want to make sure that that bond is there. That's going to be critically important. And then next, we want to make sure that we're clear that praying for patience is paramount. Listen, in raising teens, the calmest mother can become unraveled and be on the borderline of losing her last natural mind. But we want to make sure that, of course, we're in sync and we're in tune and we're connecting with our teen, because we want that bond to be there. That's the end result. We want that bond to be there. So these are some ways in which we can make sure that, of course, as we're praying for patience, we want to make sure that even though it's tough, that number one, we are overlooking the drama. Drama can surface for sure. We want to make sure that we are overlooking that. And then also we want to make sure that we know, we want to listen through all of that heightened volume to what is the teen saying. You know, a lot of times, you know, we'll hear them and we know that they're upset, we know that they're angry, but guess what? If we're able to read between the lines, then guess what? We're able to clearly hear what's being said between this dialogue. We want to avoid interrupting emerging mothers, because we want to hear clearly what it is that they're saying, what it is that they're thinking, because guess what? That's what can ignite our problem-solving mode. Now, not that we'll instantly solve the problem, but guess what? When our teens are calmer, then guess what? We can share some options and we can share some ways, of course, on how, and mainly the options, so that they're able to make an informed decision. It can lead them to how, of course, they can resolve the issue at hand. Whether it's between you and them, whether it's between them and someone else, we'll know what options there are, because, of course, we've heard them. We've read between the lines in reference to the issue that was surfacing, the issue at hand. So listen, drop down for me in the chat how or some ways you are igniting the communication between you and your teen. And thank you so much. I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you, Carrie. And I'm going to read Carrie's comment, and so I can go ahead and address that. Carrie's asking, I ask and get nothing. Is it normal for me to vacillate between yes and a new journey? And oh my goodness, what am I thinking, sending him away? Yes, oh my goodness, Carrie, that is so. We are on the same page, of course, because that's exactly what I did. And I'll share with you this. You know, back in 2016, I vacillated as well, of course, because I wanted my teen to be right here in Texas. I wanted her to be right here in Texas with me. And so there was a little vacillating as well. She had gotten a scholarship. We drove her 17 long hours away to Virginia Tech. Came back here and found myself thinking, while I was in my prayer closet wailing, thinking to myself, what in the world have we just done? She's out in this big wide world, all the way on the East Coast. Of course, I had sorority sisters there, but you know, they weren't that close to the campus. So yes, I was wondering, what in the world have I just done? Of course, we ask when they close down in that communication, but we want to make sure that we're near. Now, if you will please utilize some of these strategies, remain available, listen versus lecturing. We want to make sure that when they do come to us, we want to make sure we're a coach versus a cop. Now, mind you, we have raised them. We have done so much, lots for these kids. And so then to transition as emerging mothers, we're pivoting more and more away from that role and to a whole different role. It's almost like a shift that we're making that I had to discover. And that's why I will talk so much about this in the masterclass that's coming up, and how we can go about making that shift that I have made and still making it now that my teens, of course, my oldest one, she's graduated already from Virginia Tech, and she's back home now and will be going, of course, to the DC area. So even once our teen has graduated and come back, then I will be talking about those strategies as well. So yes, you will definitely want to sign up. I love how towards the latter part, of course, of your question or of your comment, I've resorted to asking to get a brief response, usually one word from him, and then I lay out the consequence. Well, listen, open-ended questions are critical. And then follow a brief response, usually one word from him, and then I lay out the consequence. Well, listen, open-ended questions are critical. And then following it up, of course, with then even subsequent questions. So listen, totally normal. It's that independence that they're seeking, but in the process of them seeking independence, do we want them to be totally independent of us? Absolutely not. But we do want them to be interdependent, and a way that we can be interdependent is if the communication still prevails. So listen, sign up for that masterclass. I'm going to be just tossing tips and dropping gems. I just, these are our short video recordings here on a weekly basis, but by the same token, that 9-day masterclass, these are the very topics that I will be discussing. So please, Carrie, if you'll please sign up, that would be absolutely awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But yes, it is normal to answer your question. And so there are ways that, of course, we can make sure that we focus on that, because before, and we want to do it before the transition, because after the transition, we want to make sure that we're there for them. And still being able to evolve ourselves into the role that we'll be fulfilling as they're in college and even after they're in college. Because, of course, there will be a bit of a pull there, because guess what? There are people on the college campus. There are advisors. They're closer to some friends that they of course, will be around. So they'll be getting other advice. And, of course, as emerging mothers, we'll want to adjust to that. And then, of course, you'll have us. I mean, your parent posse. And so you'll hear all types of ideas and all types of ways of how other mothers have handled it as well. So I'm super excited you're here, and thank you so much for that comment, I tell you. And so listen, and usually this is about 25 or 30 minutes long. I want us to do this, emerging mothers. Listen, whatever other questions you have or comments, drop them in the group, number one. Secondly, this is October. This is homecoming month. I know some of your sons and daughters have attended homecoming. So I want to see those pictures. Drop those pictures in the group. I know that they were sharp. I know that they were looking good on homecoming day or looking good on homecoming night. Of course, I will be dropping my teens' pictures there. And so please, I look forward to seeing some pictures. And whatever questions you have, please, drop them in the group. The masterclass, November 8th, it'll be 9 days long, only for about maybe each time. You'll still be able to be with your family, so only about maybe 45 minutes per session. Of course, I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much. Love you all. I appreciate you. Take care. And I may see you, of course, before next Thursday at 7 p.m. But if not, know that you'll see me there. Thank you so much. Take care. Appreciate all of your questions and all of your thoughts. See ya. Bye.